Hey guys. Okay, so as she said, I'm Ariana. I know like all of you, so hey guys. So my message, I decided to talk about the power of words. And so I chose it for two reasons. Firstly, just because we're always using words, whether it's like speaking or if we're using it through like social media or messaging. So just like it was a practical message, and also it's something that I've been tackling for a bit of time, so it was also close to my heart. And so I wanted to speak on it. And I did not know Pastor Aaron was talking about the power of words on Sunday. His name was literally the power of words. And so it was a really big coincidence, but it's okay because we do not have all the same points, so it's okay. We're going to go with it. So as I was saying, we're always using our words, and especially now that we have like social media and stuff, we use it even more so than people may have back then in a way. And when I say that, I mean like we're reaching more people through messages, through Instagram notes, through the captions in our posts, through our stories. And so I feel like in a way using social media to speak to people kind of takes away the ability to see the effects that our words have on others, because if you're having a face-to-face conversation with someone, you can see their reactions, you can see how you're making them feel. You may not say some things for that reason, but with messages, you're just messaging, and then it's like, I'm on this side of the screen, they're on that side, and that's kind of the end of the story. And so it can be a lot more tempting to use our words less carefully. And so regardless if we're using social media or if we're just talking to people face to face, we're constantly tempted to say whatever we're feeling or thinking. Like whenever we feel strong emotions, we want to communicate that, and we want to get it out to whoever we're talking to. And sometimes we don't do that in the healthiest of ways. I know I don't. And so that can lead us to, sinning and disobeying God if we're just saying whatever we're feeling, because there can be, yeah. And so my first point is words are powerful. And then, okay, so this brings me to Proverbs 18:21, which says, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. And so the first part I wanted to talk about was the first part of the verse, which says, the tongue has the power of life and death, because that means that our words have a crazy amount of power. And so we need to be really careful about how we use it, and it's all the way up to us on how we use it. And then the second part of it says, those who love it will eat its fruit. And what that means is there are consequences for your words. And so it affects you, and it's going to come back to you. And also it can affect others. Like what you say has an effect on others and how they think, how they feel. And so we need to be careful about that too. And so when I was asked to figure out a song for this, I'm not going to lie, I was struggling really, really hard because I am really indecisive and I couldn't really figure anything out. But I landed on Rihanna's Same Old Love. It's a really good song. And basically just for one line where it says, you can't take back what you said, oh no. Because once we say words, we can't take it back. Like people can forgive you or they might forget, but whatever you made that person feel in that moment, like you can't take back them feeling that at that moment. And it can have lasting effects. And so we need to be really careful about how we use our words based on how it can affect others and how it can affect ourselves. And then that leads me to my next point, words create and destroy. And so for this, I'm going to reference Genesis 1:3-27, and I'm not going to read all 25 verses because that would be really long. But basically, it's the creation story. And to sum it up, it's when God created the earth and the heavens, people, animals, light and dark. And he did all of that by speaking it into existence. Like, he didn't have tools, he didn't have a blueprint, he just spoke, and those things were created. And people could definitely say, like, yeah, he's God, so of course he has that power with the words. He can just say something and it creates, but what does that mean for us? But he's definitely more powerful than us, like, obviously, and he can do all of that, and we can't necessarily do it in the same ways, but he also opens up opportunity for us to gain power through our words. And so in Matthew 17:20-21, Jesus is saying, truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, if you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. And so basically there's power behind words when we have strong beliefs backing them up. And so that goes into prayer whenever we pray with our full heart in it and we believe that God is going to do what his will is, then there's power behind that. But that also means that there's power behind our words that we have strong emotions for. And whenever we have strong emotions and then we talk, we can create feelings like love, hate, sadness, anger, happiness. And we can also destroy and tear people down. And so that leads me to my next point: words have an impact. And so something that I'm sure a lot of us has heard as a child is, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. And that's something that, to me, growing up, started to sound pretty corny when I was hearing it in school and on TV and from parents. And it's something that just kind of loses meaning once you hear it too many times. But Ephesians 4:29 says something pretty similar. It says, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen." And so this verse is saying, only let good words come out of your mouth. And if what you're going to say isn't good, then you shouldn't say it. And so it's basically a paraphrase of that quote just from God. So it makes it a bit better. And God is saying to use our words for the benefit of others. And that can mean face-to-face whenever you're talking to people, encouraging them, or just bringing life into conversation. Or it could just be whenever you don't think anybody's listening, because people can still hear you. You don't know who's watching. And in Philippians 2:14, it says, "Do all things without grumbling or disputing." And so even in that, whenever we grumble, dispute, we're complaining, and others hear that, that can bring them down. That can affect how they're thinking, how they're feeling, maybe how they view you or how they view themselves. And so we need to be careful how we use our words, especially around other people, because even if you don't think that it has an impact, it can have a huge impact on how they're feeling and just them. And so all of this to say, this verse says, only say things that would encourage yourself and others and that would lift those around you up. And so this goes to my action steps. And so I have two of them. One of them is to just think before you speak. And so Proverbs 15:28 says, "The heart of the righteous weighs its answers, but the mouth of the wicked gushes evil." And so if we want to follow God and listen to what he says to us, it's basically saying to think before we speak, weigh our answers. And so whenever we're feeling something, we shouldn't just say it, but we should weigh the impact that it could have on others and not to just talk without thinking. And then it says the mouth of the wicked gushes evil. So that's when we're not thinking, when we're in a heated moment or we're upset at somebody and we're just letting the words flow out. We're saying things that we shouldn't say or things that are hurtful to others. And yeah, so basically God is saying think before you speak. And a good way to help with this and partner with God with this is praying. And Psalm 141:3 says, "Set a guard over my mouth, Lord. Keep watch over the door of my lips." And so if you don't have a place to start, you could always pray over that verse. And that was a prayer that David prayed. Long story short, he was a shepherd boy who became king because of God. He otherwise probably wouldn't have been king just because of how things were back then. And he was constantly on the run from people who were jealous from him or just a lot of crazy situations. And whenever he was in distress or whenever he was faced with difficult situations, he called on God. He wrote almost half of the entire book of Psalms, which it's 150 chapters, so that's a lot of Psalms and a lot of him praying to God and worshiping him. And so whenever we're in distress or we're tempted to use our words against what God calls us to do, we can call on God just like David did, and we can pray to him just like he did. And so if you don't think before you speak and you just use your words to satisfy whatever you're feeling at that moment, that sets you up to sin, because whenever you're in a very heated moment, like I said, you're not really thinking and you're just saying what's on your mind, and you say things that are hurtful and that are bad and that you know you shouldn't be saying. And so you should think before you use your words, because they have a really big impact on yourselves and on others. And with our words, we can either use it to glorify God and obey him and build ourselves and others up, or we can use it to not listen to God and to tear others down. And only you have the power to decide what you use them for. And that's it. So, thank you.